Welcome back to In the Zone. I'm your host, Gerhigh Milbrant. With spring training kicking off, the Four Nations face-off coming to an end, and Champions League knockouts, and much, much more. There's a lot to cover. In the Zone starts now. Joining me on desk are the wonderful Humphreys and Theo Vela. MLB spring training is well underway. From Arizona to Florida, teams are looking to continue their dominance, gear up for a surprise run to the playoffs, and the White Sox just want to win 50 games, hopefully. Some teams had an early visit from the dreaded injury bug. Some big names include Giancarlo Stanton from the Yankees, starters Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea from the Mets, and many more. Zach, what spring injury do you think will impact their team the most?
I like to start where you mentioned it, Giancarlo Stanton. He was having the tennis elbow in both elbows and unfortunately just hasn't swung a bat in well over a month. And that's with spring training right around here. He's definitely not going to be ready by opening day, especially with the latest news. He's out for a personal issue. He flew back home to New York. They're not releasing any kind of details, but that's going to weigh into his time to get that bat back in his hand and get back out there ready to go. Another name that I saw got the injury bug was Wyatt Langford from the Rangers. He's dealing with an oblique injury. And one of those things, man, when it comes to the baseball scene, oblique injuries tend to linger and have the capability of returning. I'm just hoping that the Rangers do the right thing and can take care of a young player like Langford. That way he doesn't get caught with the injury bug later when it really matters in June.
Theo, who has been bit by the bug the worst?
You know, it's spring training. Obviously, there's so much room to grow. There's some time in between now and the start of the season, but it's mostly just guys just pulling hammies that they're super tight, you know. But definitely once they get back into the things, you know, letting them rest, letting them settle down. I think towards the end of spring training, teams are going to realize, you know, say, hey, we're good. We're in a good spot right now. Obviously, the Yankees missing Giancarlo Stanton is a pretty big blow to them, but there's so many teams. There's so much time still to the regular season. So, yeah, obviously.
With the weather heating up in Millersville and at our spring training site, some hot takes are in order. Theo first, what is your hottest take for this upcoming MLB season?
Yeah, obviously first you got to look at the NL. The NL East is still going to be stacked more than ever this year. I do think the Phillies are going to win the NL East, obviously. The Mets are still going to continue to struggle. They're still going to not be able to break that 90-win mark, 91, 92 wins. But obviously the Braves are still in the mix after losing Max Fried, but their starting pitching is still going well. Then you go out west. There's the Dodgers. Maybe the Giants will swing into things. Who knows? But the NL West is such a grab right now. The Rockies are still going to be at the bottom. But the Padres, maybe you see Tatis have an MIP, Most Improved Player. They don't give out that award in baseball. I know that. But hypothetically, he's back to hitting 40 home runs, 45 home runs into his season. You know, back to that season in 20 where got him on the cover of the show 21. Obviously, in the AL, the Astros using Bregman. Bregman looks great so far on the Red Sox. So maybe the Red Sox pop out in the East and the AL East. Who knows? Their pitching is still going to deteriorate their roster, and they're still going to do bad. Obviously, the Yankees are well into the mix now, getting up all those outfielders, getting what's from the Cubs. I'm sorry, I forget his name. Cody Bellinger, getting him. Getting Paul Goldschmidt as well, and reversing the Beard rule, guys. No more Beard rule. How do we feel about that? I mean, you're probably pumped about it. I
think it's nice. I was always thinking if I ever got to the Yankees, I'd have to shave everything, and that would be a shame. But maybe I can. If I can learn how to swing a bat, catch a ball, pitch, field, everything else that comes with being a baseball player.
Pretty much,
Zach, you've been cooking up a hot take for a bit. What is yours for the MLB season?
Yeah, Aaron Chun actually touched on it last week in the episode. I think the Red Sox look really good. And especially in a division like the AL East where you have the Orioles and the Yankees sitting at the top as well, the Red Sox could be a very sneaky team. You mentioned him. Alex Bregman looked really good in his spring training debut. He already homered as well. And I know there's a little bit of controversy with him and Rafael Devers, taking that third base role. I think ultimately they should give it to Bregman and have Devers be the DH. But we'll see how that looks in a little bit. Another team I want to mention is the Reds. I think them hiring Francona early in the offseason was just the start to a great offseason as well. Ellie De La Cruz already homered twice on both sides of the plate as well. So the Reds are just looking really good as is. And even Brady Singer on the mound as well was just fantastic in the debut. But you were mentioning hot takes, and like I said, I was kind of cooking them up as well. I think once the trade deadline begins to come around, I think the Blue Jays are going to make some moves, especially in a division like that. I think either Bichette or Guerrero are going to have to bounce. Their contracts are coming to an end. They're going to have to make some moves. I believe Bichette would be the one to go, but with a big name like Bichette, you can't just leave Guerrero out the mix either. I think one of them is going to be wearing anything other than Toronto blue by the time the trade deadline comes around.
All right, good take, Zach. Terry Francona and his scooter know how to build teams. The Four Nations face-off has officially ended as the United States and Canada squared off on the ice last Thursday in Boston. The exciting game needed bonus hockey tied at 2-2 after regulation, pushing the face-off into overtime. 8 minutes into overtime, Canada's Connor McDavid scored an American goaltender Connor Hellebuyck, winning the game for Canada and taking home the title at the inaugural Four Nations face-off. This was the second most watched hockey game in the past decade and the most watched non-NFL game in history on ESPN+. Zach, what are your thoughts on this tournament as a whole and on the final game results?
So I'll start with your first question about the entire tournament. Perfect. Just perfect to the last detail. The very last minute detail. Because, I mean, it completely took over the NBA All-Star game. We hinted towards it last week. But, man, when you have the NBA All-Star game where people are dissing it because players aren't giving it enough effort, and then you look on the ice and you see the passion, you see the will to go out there on the ice every day and put your best foot forward every time the puck gets dropped. I mean, I thought the tournament was perfect from the beginning to the end. Although USA did end up losing, it was a great hockey game. Fantastic. I feel like although despite Matthew Tkachuk, I believe his injury was pretty much the downfall as well. Bennington was just fantastic. The entire game was fantastic, Theo.
Well, yeah, it's what the sport needed for the last 10 years. Obviously, the last time they had best on best hockey, and the last time that instead of an all-star game, we're going to say, hey, we're going to go do this tournament. We're going to have this thing. 2010. That's when Crosby scored that goal. Everybody was like, when's the next time that we're going to see this? When's the next time we're going to see best on best hockey? The best players from the best teams in the best countries. Well, we finally got it. Everybody got their wish, and it turned out perfectly. Everybody loved it. The fans, it was such a great spectacle. It was such a great fan experience. The atmospheres in Montreal and in USA was just Boston, excuse me, but it's just unbelievable, and it's what the sport has been wanting, and it's what the sport's needed for the last 10, 15 years. But to put it this way, NBA players, a lot of the times, they're playing for the names on the back. Like hockey players, whenever they step out on that ice, they're playing for the name on the front. They're not thinking about egos. They're not thinking about how much money they're getting paid. They're not thinking about, oh, I'm not going to play because, we traveled for 2 days and we're sick. But, like, these guys, they're ready to go out there and give it their all every single night. They're ready to, they're ready to block shots. They're ready to, give up as much physical and, like, what's sacrifice physically to be there, to be for their teammates and to be something for them. So, yeah, I think that's what the NBA is missing a lot is just they need to start playing for the name on the front, start playing for their team, start coming together, start buying into systems that these coaches are working for them instead of just being individuals making money and, getting to places late. It's my hot take for that. But yeah, it was an unbelievable experience and a great tournament. So.
100%. I totally agree. And if we wanted to kind of like turn our focus to the game a little bit, man, right down to the stretch in the third period when Tkachuk went out, man, I still think from the late third quarter to overtime, USA had the opportunity. They had countless amounts of opportunity. Where do you see? Do you feel like the offense kind of let up there towards the end? I feel like at the end of the day, the offense was just so quick fire to the point where Canada was just able to take take,
Yeah,
guess?
I mean, honestly, USA really, they couldn't get through their neutral zone. They couldn't move. They couldn't move the puck forward. Canada, that game was very, very good. It's called neutral zone forechecking. They were very good at getting in the defenseman's face, getting in the winger's face, and coughing up the puck in the middle. So then you have guys like Connor McDavid or Crosby or even Nathan McKinnon sweep by, pick up that puck in the middle, and you go down, and maybe it's a 2-on-2 on the other end. There's so many. That's what USA gave up a lot, and they were just giving up so many odd rushes here and then, like giving up these 3-on-2s every once in a while, giving up maybe even a 2-on-1 every once in a while. The scoreline could have been a lot different if Connor Hellebuyck wasn't playing, because he was just honestly just lights out. But in the end, just for USA, just too little, too late, honestly. It's it's just the way it goes, and next year the Olympics is back for best on best, so gonna see more teams, so that's gonna be even more exciting.
Yeah, beware of Jordan Binnington in the Garden. We now send it over to Payje Davis for the latest in Marauder Athletics. Payje?
Thanks, Gehrig. Both men's and women's basketball ended their home stretch playing Lock Haven on Saturday, where the women's team fell short with a score of 47-54. While the men secured a victory over the Bald Eagles with a score of 86-66, with Drew Stover leading the team with 32 points, a career high for the senior. Both teams then secured victories over Bloomsburg on Wednesday, with the women finishing with a score of 68-51 and the men with a score of 88-68. Both teams will travel to Westchester on Wednesday, ending their home game streak. Both teams are set to play Bloomsburg again at home this coming Wednesday. The indoor track team just wrapped up their regular season at the Penn State Tune-Up, where senior Audrey Sidor clutched a PSAC spot for the 400-meter dash. Women's lacrosse just had their first season home meet against Wilmington University, clutching a win of 19-11, with senior Rachel Keeney scoring her 100th goal against the Wildcats. The team will be traveling to Caldwell, New Jersey for their next game against Caldwell University. Now, we're going to send it back to the desk to talk about March Madness. Gehrig?
Thanks, Paige. Looking towards March, where all sports fans think of Shamrock Shakes and the infamous March Madness tournament. Teams are wrapping up their conference play in 2 weeks and looking forward to the big dance towards a national championship. Teams like the Auburn Tigers and Duke Blue Devils have been amongst the top teams in the nation that will control the 1 seed in their respective brackets. Despite earning their spot throughout the season, fans will look towards teams likely to make their own Cinderella run. Theo, what teams stand out to you as potential sleeper teams that can make a run?
You look at the top 10 right now, 4 SEC teams in the top 10, which is an unbelievable stat. I don't think it's happened in a while now. All these ACC teams, all these Big Ten still, they have also 3 teams in the top 10 right now. The Big 12 also has 3 teams in the top 10 right now, which is another conference outside of, that ACC level, like those Dukes, those Carolinas, those Big Ten teams like Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State doesn't look at basketball. Sorry, Wisconsin, of course, yeah. But it's so up for grabs. The NCAA March Madness tournament is whoever is going to win that day is going to win that day. Nobody knows who's going to win. Nobody knows who's going to do good. But obviously, those top 10 teams are going to be amazing. Like, say, Auburn, Duke. Cooper Flagg is an unbelievable player. He's a great standout guy for that team, and there's just so many opportunities for Texas Tech, maybe even. I like Michigan State personally. I think they're going to go on an unbelievable run in the tournament, but just so many opportunities for smaller teams, and not so smaller teams, but more just teams that we don't see a lot. And the Big 12, obviously, and even the SEC, like teams like Florida and, Auburn has been obviously great the last 4 or 5 years, but some of these SEC teams are going to be number 1 seeds. And obviously, I'm going to throw it over to you, Zach, but there's going to be a lot of underdogs. There's going to be a lot of teams that come out of nowhere in these next 2 weeks and be like, we're contenders. They're going to get thrown in, say, 10, 11, 12 seeds, maybe even an 8 or a 9. And they're going to do well. They're going to perform well because you get into the tournament, and whoever's doing hot is doing hot.
Yeah, I 100% agree, especially with your SEC take. Man, this SEC conference this year is looking magnificent. You mentioned it, 3 of the top 4. If you look at the projections and where teams are right now, we have Auburn, Florida, and Alabama taking 3 of the 4 top seeds in the whole entire tournament, and we're not even talking about teams like Texas A&M. The SEC looks really good. You also can't sleep on teams. We already mentioned Duke, but the But Houston has been looking really good. They've been good the past few years as well. They're probably going to be a fringe one, possibly like a 2 seed, but they always seem to make a run when it matters. But when we mention sleeper teams, like you said, we're talking about those 11 and 12 seeds, man. When they've got those 5 and 6 matchups, maybe like the 7 and 10s, they'd be looking really good. So when I looked at the projections and seeing where teams are, man, there's a few teams I saw. Yale has always been really good. They ended up defeating Auburn last year as a 13 seed and making it to that 32 round. I think another team you got to look at is UC San Diego. Man, oh man, let me tell you, those boys are good at playing basketball. I'd say they can make it at least to the Sweet 16. By the way, they're playing. They've won 9 straight. Even though their competition has been that good, they've won by, as an average, 20.5 points per game. I mean, they're playing some really good basketball right now, 24-4 total. And I mean, depending who they play, they could be a 12 seed. But I also really like Clemson as well. They made it to the Elite 8 last year. I think Clemson could go on a really deep run. I got UC San Diego. Actually, you know what? Give me UC San Diego Elite 8 appearance this year.
Well, watch out for the Toreros. Last week in the UEFA Champions League in Europe just wrapped up in their first ever knockout playoff matchups. The big results during match day 2 on February 18th, Feyenoord draws to AC Milan 1-1, and Feyenoord advance on aggregate 2-1. Bayern Munich advanced, beating Celtic 3-2 on aggregate. An amazing game with Ben Davies scoring in the 94th minute to get the Bavarians into the next round. On the 19th, PSG batters Stade Brestois 7-0, advancing 10-0 on aggregate. PSV upsets Juventus in extra time, advancing 4-3 on aggregate. And finally, Real Madrid defeats Manchester City 6-3 on aggregate, eliminating the defending Premier League champions from winning another major trophy. Theo, what are your reactions to these scorelines?
It was great. Obviously, coming off this new group stage, this new format that we're going to talk about right now is obviously 32 teams. They're going to have 8 different match days. They're going to play 8 different teams. Normally in the Champions League, it's the group stage. So a group stage is, I believe it was 8 different groups with 4 teams. They play each other twice. So instead of playing the same competition, say twice, 3 times in a row, they're playing different teams. They're traveling to different cities. They're traveling to so many different countries. It's so much better for the sport and just gives it that extra flair. Obviously, going into the knockout playoff round, Real Madrid obviously destroying City. As expected, City have been in such a slump recently. In December, I believe, November, December, they were on about, say, a 15 to 16 pointless game streak in the Premier League. So not doing so hot for them. Obviously, AC Milan having a decent season so far in the Serie A. Not getting past Feyenoord. Feyenoord just playing unbelievable so far. And then you got to look at so many other games and just so many more opportunities for teams. A team that wasn't mentioned before, Club Brugge, beating the former Europa League champions Atalanta. It's just so crazy so far. And I'm looking at the bracket for the next round here. Obviously, Madrid playing Atletico Madrid next. So the Madrid derby in the round of 16 is going to be so crazy to watch. PSG is going to be playing Liverpool. That's going to be another great matchup for the round of 16. Then we have Benfica and Barcelona. Barcelona, in my opinion, is a team that's going to reach the semifinals. They're going to be able to get to that semifinal, and they're probably going to be playing Liverpool, in my opinion. So Liverpool finishing first in that group stage draw, that new table, new way, new match days. Yeah, it's great. I mean, Zach, you're not really, I'd say, lost, but obviously, I'm explaining this right now. Like, the Champions League is just so awesome. And if some people don't know what the Champions League is, but it's basically, if you finish high enough in your league, in your country, in Europe, you're going and playing in this league. So it's 32 best teams in Europe. They're playing for so much more than just their league championships. They're playing we're talking about the champion of Europe in a club, which is an unbelievable stat to have and an unbelievable trophy to win. There's so many good games, so that's why this Champions League is so amazing. Like I said, the Madrid derby in the Champions League, the Madrid derby being Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Those 2 teams only playing each other 3 to 4 times a year, maybe twice. But now they're going to be playing each other 2 more times. So add that up. And then a home and home. So that's how it is. It's super exciting. Zach, I want to invite you over to my house. We're going to be watching some games. I'm going to show you how great it is having a Red Zone. It's a Red Zone show. It's basically Champions League Red Zone, and there's about 8 screens in front of you, and you can watch all the games. at once. So it's really fun. It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I tried to do a little bit of my own research for the Champions League. As if you couldn't tell, I'm not, you know, I haven't been a big fan of the Champions League, but man, things look really good because I looked into the actual matchups and, of course, the historical stance and how good those teams have been playing recently. You hit the nail right on the head. I began to realize this Real Madrid and Atletico. I always like say Atlanta or something. Those two, man, that's going to be a crazy good matchup. Because Atletico, it's Real Madrid. I mean, they almost lost to Man City. They were down at one point. The second leg ended up kicking in. But for some teams, they were expected to go all the way and possibly win the whole tournament. Now they just scraped by Man City and now have to go into Atletico and face a team like that. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this could be the game of the round of 16. What do you think?
Yeah, it could be. Obviously, just wrapping up this here, but the La Liga, the top three are all within 2 points right now. And those three clubs are Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid. Mm-hmm. So they're playing for something completely different than what they've been playing for all season long in the La Liga. So it's going to be such an awesome game, and it's going to be crazy. And honestly, I think Real Madrid are going to win. I think on aggregate, it's going to be 4-2. I think Real Madrid are going to win 1-0. At home, but away, they're going to probably win 3-1. So I got Real Madrid moving through. I think Real Madrid are going to win the Champions League this year, too.
All right, don't forget the love for my German teams, too. Bayern Munich and Leverkusen facing off the past two German championships. That's the match I'm going to watch. And that'll do it for this episode of In the Zone. From Zach Humphreys, Theo Vela, Payje Davis, and the entire crew, I'm your host, Milbrant. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time, right here on In the Zone.